Hello and namaste. Welcome to our podcast, The Spoken Words. You're listening to the very first episode of this podcast. I am Pujan Rijal, and joining me in this episode is Ms. Chandni Ghimire, who is a passionate psychosocial counselor and CBT therapist. She co-founded her company, PAV, with a mission to empower today's generation with socio-emotional intelligence and well-being. Chandni is also the Vice President of Education at Himalaya Toastmasters Club. Hi, Chandni. Thank you so much for being with us today. How are you?
Thank you, Pujan. I'm really doing good. How about you?
I'm good too, and I'm feeling even better to have you with us.
It's my pleasure.
So, considering the present context, how has COVID affected your life as a human being and as a psychotherapist?
Well, I must say the way I used to work before and now has changed drastically. Before we used to work in a physical setting, and now the work has not been changed, but the mode of work has been changed. So now it's completely virtual. So I think one of the major changes is that.
Okay, so how are you finding it? Like, are the virtual sessions proving to be as effective as the physical sessions, or?
In my point of view, in present context, yes, virtual sessions are effective. Rather than not having counseling sessions, virtual sessions are effective, but still I will prefer physical sessions because in counseling, I think when you have that physical interaction, it's more productive than the virtual one. But again, I would like to emphasize one thing: as rather than not having and assessing the present situation, I think even like virtual counseling is very effective.
Yeah, that makes sense. So apart from that, how has your experience been working in the pandemic?
I must say that the cases I have been looking at in this pandemic are mostly associated with anxiety, stress, vocational stress, uh, post traumatic stress disorder after recovering from COVID. Um, so there is also like some of the issues like binge eating has been increased, binge watching has been increased. So yeah, at the same time, I have also seen the level of substance abuse, people drinking a slight higher domestic violence. I think these are some of the issues that has been observed recently because of this pandemic.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I can totally relate to binge watching. I can count the number of series I've watched ever since the pandemic started. And I'm not really proud of it. But yes, I have been following the news and I have heard of the number of cases of suicide being on the rise ever since the pandemic started, and other mental health conditions related to PTSD, as you mentioned, and substance abuse and domestic violence. So, yeah, it's been tricky, right?
Well, one thing that what we can understand is pandemic has invited uncertainty in our life. Like pandemic has brought that uncertainty in our life, and somehow when we are uncertain about our career, when we are uncertain about our uh, educations, about our job and everything, I think it's automatically lead to that stressful situations.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that too, like the career and everything is on stake. And I've experienced this firsthand because my exam got revoked because of technical issues, and it all happened because of the pandemic, I guess. But apart from career related context, I personally also suffered from anticipatory anxiety when it came to COVID because I would just panic if I saw another person or if someone came into my household, and even if they were adopting the safety measures, I would just panic and think that
they're carrying the virus or something. So I was just being too careful and losing nights of sleep over it. And I am sure that a lot of people can relate to what I'm saying. So, how do you think we can not let ourselves get overwhelmed with it?
Well, I can completely relate with you what you are saying, because not only you, I think I will call it as a normal reaction to the abnormal situations, or it's a normal reaction, because the pandemic is not something that we are used to, and being a little more skeptic and being stressful is normal to some extent, if you it's not hampering you too much, because it's not something that we deal from our childhood, or we have seen it before, or our parents have seen it. So I think a little bit of the stress and anxiety is quite normal in the time of pandemic, and the things that we are hearing in news, like second wave is coming, third wave, Delta virus, and everything. I think it's obvious that we feel anxious and stressed, but again, there are different ways how we can manage, or how we can channelize all those things. So first thing I would like to say is one thing that we can do is maybe we can monitor and switch to reliable news source, because not only we do eating or binge watching, sometimes also we just scroll our Instagram feed or the Facebook feed, and we just watch news, not intentionally, but just because it's coming, we are watching it. So maybe if we allocate time for intentional news watching, maybe morning one time or the evening one time or something like that, it can also helps us not to panic, because news might have come from credible source or not. One thing we can do that. Another thing is spending more time with the closer people is another thing that we can do, and we can discuss more about our feelings. Well, these are some of the generic things that I think it's so much have been floated in the social media as well. But again, accepting your feelings sometime and just letting, not judging it further. If you're feeling anxious also, that's all right. It's okay to feel anxious at a time. It's okay to feel stressed at a time. Sometimes we do not, we try to fight that very feelings. So maybe just
Yes.
accepting the feeling sometimes and letting yourself feel like it's okay to feel stress. That's all right. Just remaining with the feelings, just observing it for a while, because emotions are like a wave. Once you take a ride, then it will go up and slowly it will subside. It will take you its natural flow. So just accepting your feelings, making a short-term goal is very, very important. This is a time of uncertainty, and when we make that long-term goals, it's very uncertain time. So at least we can set a goal for a week, maybe for today, maybe for tomorrow, or a week or 2 weeks. But not setting a higher goals and just trying to accomplish simple goals will also help to look forward, to move forward. So likewise, I think some of the relaxation techniques might also help to control or to manage the stress and anxiety, keeping things in perspective. What are the things that are in my control, and what are the things that are not in my control? Just understanding your own circle of control. What are the things that I can exercise my power on, or what are the things that I can change, and what are the things I cannot change? So sometimes just keeping things on your own perspective also helps us to manage the stress or the anxiety. I would say.
Yeah, I really liked how you said that we should not fight the feeling, and it's okay to feel stressed or anxious, because we don't get told about it so often. And it was really nice hearing it coming from you, especially because when I talk with someone, a peer, or when I talk with a prospective employer or an employer or a colleague, all we ask is, so what do you want to do 5 years down the line? Where do you see yourself 5 years down the line? So when the entire world is on the hold and you don't know if you'll be able to move to different parts of the world for employment or educational purposes, like you are trying to remain present in the moment, but all those questions make you feel unsettled, and then you start thinking about the tomorrows, which you stated are beyond our control. So instead of focusing on the things that are under our control, we just expose ourselves to triggering events based on such conversations, and then anxiety and stress are on the rise, obviously. So yeah, that's what my personal experience has been uh, lately as well. So, and I haven't really found the relaxation technique so far. So, could you please inform us about it even further?
Yeah, well, I think when we are, what we can do is when we feel stress or when we feel anxious or the stress, what we can do is we can observe ourselves. And if you have observed it by yourself, we go through some sort of physiological changes, and we also go through some sort of psychological changes and behavioral changes. So changes happen in three dimensions when it comes to anxiety, or whenever we go through any upsurge or any roller coaster ride of the emotions. So one thing I will suggest is PMR, that is progressive muscles relaxation. Even now you can try it. This progressive muscles relaxation is like, okay, you imagine you have got two oranges, ripe oranges. Hold it in your hand.
Okay.
Now close your eyes, and you have to take the every single juice out of it. Now start clenching your muscles, because you need to squeeze all the juice out of it. Okay, don't clench so hard that it starts hurting, but make sure you take all the juice out of it. Okay, okay, now you need to juice it
Okay.
to one. Okay, now slowly relax your hands. Relax your hands, open it, and just be with that relaxation. Okay, so this is just a small thing that we can do. um, what it helps us to focus, bring our focus in the present situation, how you're feeling. Progressive muscle relaxation is widely used, and it's just a small it's just one small example. But if you really want to try PMR, you can just go to YouTube and search PMR videos. So you can find from 5,
Okay.
10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So start from your crown to your toe. So this is one thing I have also personally tried, and it may sound very, does it really work just clenching my fist or something? Yeah, people might find it that way, but again, I would say that it really works. If you're really going through very much of a stress, if you're really going through lots of anxiety and worry, just give it a try. Just believe it will work and give it a try. It somehow helps. I won't say it will eliminate your stress, it will make everything all right. But yes, it will prepare you to deal with upcoming situation. It will help you to relax and just let go, for even it will give you a break from all those stressful situation. One is PMR. Second thing what we can try is, in this pandemic, people has been locked down and living in their own home in between four walls. So some people are lucky enough that they have got the big bungalow where they are living and lots of rooms, maybe terrace, maybe beautiful garden around. But we should not forget there are people who are living in one room, sharing one room for more than 4 or 5 people. So I've seen the cases where people really find overwhelming when they have to live in one room 24/7 with 4 or 5 people together. So another thing what we can do is for relaxation is imagery technique. Imagery technique is also quite very interesting, and it also works. So in imagery technique, you may sit somewhere in a comfortable place, in a comfortable position. Then slowly what you can do is you close your eyes, you can take a couple of long breathe, then slowly imagine the place where you feel very comfortable, favorite place where you feel very secured. It can be nearby hills, it can be nearby mountains, it can be rooftop, it can be anywhere. Just imagine. Now, gaze or think about the, well, how is the air over there? Is it warm? Is it cold? Feel it. not just imagine with your eyes, but feel how's the weather there. Next, what we can do is what are sounds you can hear. If it's sound in your wind, if it's a desert, or maybe if it's hilly areas, maybe birds chirping. So engaging your sense, what sort of the smell is there? Maybe the fresh smell of the rain or the grass or the forest. Just imagining and engaging all your senses and slowly coming back will somehow give you the impression or give you a break from the stress. So this is also another technique that is widely used. If you are just locked in a room and you have nowhere to go and you just are having very much of a stress, maybe this is another thing. Mindfulness can be practiced when it comes to stress. Being in a moment, engaging your five senses. What are five things if someone is going through very much of stress or anxiety, maybe practicing mindfulness, engaging, like what are the five things I can see right now? What are the five things I can hear right now? What are the five things I can feel right now? Just bringing back that to present can also give a break to the stressful situations. So it might be overwhelming if I keep on discussing about more. But I think, yeah, imagery technique, being mindful and practicing PMR might be very, very helpful when it comes to managing stress. Yes, there are something else also like self-care, exercising, eating healthy, spending time with your loved ones. All these things are there, but talking about the physiological things are something that is not discussed that much. PMR, imagery, and mindfulness really helps.
Yeah, these techniques sound really nice. I tried the orange clenching technique that you mentioned, and it was really relaxing. So I'm going to take it away with me and practice it in the days to come as well. So thank you so much for informing us about it. But so I have a question actually, since you mentioned about the anxious moments that we have in the pandemic and otherwise. So how do you distinguish between having generic anxiety that would last for a day or two and having chronic anxiety? Because I have heard people describing even having being anxious for 2 hours as having anxiety. So they say, "Oh my God, I have anxiety," but I have also struggled to find out the difference. So could you please shed some light on it?
Yeah, very nicely said, Pujan. I think this is something that we can hear. Well, how I would like to say is anxiety is a very normal emotion. It's our brain's way of reacting to stress and alerting ourselves of potential danger ahead. So everyone feels anxious now and then, and it's a good thing. Anxiety also helps us to motivate and to take actions. So, well, talking about anxiety disorder, I will say when the normal anxiety will become very excessive or unrealistic worry that is difficult to control, occurring more days than not for at least 6 months about a number of events or activities, then maybe it will be like it will fall under the anxiety disorder. Otherwise, those anxiety that we go through are completely normal life anxiety, I will say, and occasional anxiety is okay, but anxiety disorders are completely different. Anxiety disorders are another group of mental disorders that cause constant and overwhelming anxiety and fear. The excessive anxiety can you avoid work, even people avoid school, family get together, and social situation. So
Yes.
different if talking about anxiety disorder, there are different anxiety disorder like general anxiety disorder, panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, social anxiety, agoraphobia. So these are different things, but here we are talking about the generic anxiety. And in terms of normal anxiety, what is anxiety? If we just think about what is anxiety, then you may realize that anxiety is nothing more. It's just like what we call as our worries and unpleasant thoughts that you can't get out of your head. They are like that annoying dogs that keep buzzing around and won't leave you alone. So it's normal to have worries. Everyone has them from time to time. It's only a problem when your worries get in the way of the parts of your life, or if they make you unhappy, or if you have that constant from like last so many months or years. So yeah, I would say that like worries are the part of life, but again, anxiety disorder is something like there are different kinds of anxiety there again.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring this topic up, and I was actually hoping to talk about it because it's personal to me too, and I've been vocal about it since a while now. So I suffered from anxiety too, and it lasted from about 2014 to 2017, I guess. I had chronic anxiety back then, and whatever you just mentioned has been falling into perspective because it had a debilitating impact on my life. It affected my family life, my social life, my academic life, and I was constantly ruminating on the what is, and I couldn't find a way to escape from there. And I would also like to mention what you as mentioned a while ago about how we aren't supposed to fight the feeling and it's okay to feel anxious, but I wasn't told so. I was just told by many people that you have to be strong, and it does not happen to me because I am strong. So those were the statements that I heard. So I would just try to find ways to get better, like magically get better overnight, and I would Google up and lose my sanity over it. And I did read a book uh, once. It was by Paul David, and I'm not saying this for marketing purposes, but the book really helped me. It was called At Last. It was called At Last Alive, and it mentioned that when we have a broken leg, we don't hesitate to talk about it. Nobody tells us not to go to a doctor. Nobody tells us to be stronger, and we don't jump around the house trying to get better. We just give it a rest, not think about it, and we rest until we feel better. But just because mental health conditions such as anxiety exist in non-tangible form, we try to rubbish it. Most people do try to rubbish it because I don't know, because of the stigma surrounding it, or I don't know what it is, but they do. And even I did. I hesitated to talk about it. And whenever I talk to my friends about it, and they mentioned that I could have anxiety, I just rubbished it. Oh my God, no, I don't have anxiety, and I'm going to get better instantly tomorrow. You shall see. But it never happened. And life changed after, as you mentioned about progressive muscle relaxation and imagery techniques. So I didn't know these technical things, but I resorted to hypnosis and meditation, where they brought such kind of things into practice, where I would imagine myself being under Eiffel Tower in Paris and having a nice day. So it did help in managing it to a certain level. And then I started working on myself, and I gave a lot of time to self-care. I did take a little time off from every aspect of my life because I knew that I needed to take care of my life, and myself, and my mental health was everything to me back then. So I became very mindful. You mentioned about mindfulness. So I became very mindful of my thoughts, and I tried to incorporate positive affirmations into the what ifs that would constantly bother me, and it helped to a certain extent. And spending time with family and a close knit group of friends, having a support system, and just talking about it, and not just keeping things to yourself and making you feel suffocated, it really helped. So that's based on my own experience. I started opening up about it, and I could find that most of my friends started talking about their problems too, and they didn't feel alienated afterwards, and I didn't either, because it was a blessing in disguise to have other people who have encountered similar problems too. So it started being a normal thing to me, and it does not affect me anymore. But yeah, so I didn't know, I didn't seek professional help, but unknowingly, based on my Google searches, I did come across these techniques. But I'm so glad that I'm finally seeking a professional insight for what I went through. And I'm sure that a lot of people are on the same boat as me. So, apart from the things that we talked about and I mentioned, are there any other things that someone either having a generic anxiety or chronic anxiety can do to manage it and to manage it to a certain level?
Yeah, firstly, thank you for opening up. And congratulations for fighting back with anxiety. Well, you mentioned that
Thanks.
I was hesitant to seek a professional help, and what I would say is, in context of Nepal, is still taboo, and we
Mhm.
think like we are ready to go to hospital if we have normal common cold, but if you are going through anxiety and worry, just like you mentioned, people tend to say you need to be strong. You are a man, come on, you
Mhm.
cannot just have a booze and you'll
Exactly.
be fine. And this sort of the concept is quite
Mhm.
popular, but I'll also say that these days with advancement of knowledge and the awareness, people are also coming up and seeking the professional help. There is no
Mhm.
one way out to manage or deal with anxiety or worry or anything. There are different ways, just like you said, like you read books and you keep things in perspective, you practice mindfulness. Yeah, sometimes just trying to things and keep things in perspective and trying to manage it by own self is also very, very helpful, because once you are willing to make that change, it will be very helpful. But again, if you want to make that change and you do not know how, then maybe it's a time where you can seek the professional help, or you can visit the nearby counselor or therapist. But if you, just like you did, that you did it by yourself, and I must say that you did a wonderful job.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
talking about the anxiety, just as I mentioned, like progressive muscles relaxation. When we say the anxiety or something, we can always make changes in physiological to calm down the physiological symptoms. And again, I will say PMR is very helpful. And there is another technique we call it is like uh, Q. Cue management, or we say like it's a quick relaxation technique, involves combining a verbal suggestion with abdominal breathing. So it is also there. If you research, if you Google it, or if you just yeah, watch in the YouTube also, you can find it. So PMR is something, and you control relaxation is something, Q control relaxation is something. It involves verbal suggestions, so that we can do for the physiological symptoms, or just sometimes taking a cold bath is also helpful, or a warm bath is also helpful, I would say. But again, in terms
Mhm.
of your cognition, or in terms of your thinking pattern, keeping things in perspective and trying to assess the accurate risk assessment. As when we say we worry, we are not in the present, right? When we say we are worried, mostly our worry are associated or future oriented, whether we are contemplating the worst
Yes.
outcome of something, or we are delving in our past experience and we are trying to draw the conclusion and worry about those things. Like, I said this to my boss, why the heck I said this? Oh my god, I should have said that. Why I always make the same mistake? Now what will happen? What will happen? Or I have given my exam, maybe I don't know, I'll score A plus or not. You may ponder on that. So if you understand the nature of the anxiety or the worry, then it's mostly future oriented, and in some cases it's also the past oriented. That means that you are not in the present, you are visiting past and future, past and future. future, and just keeping things in perspective. Like accurate risk assessment is also very, very helpful in this matter. You may ask yourself, like, what is something you are worried about? You may write it down. What are some clues that your worry will not come true? Just writing it down. And if your worry does not come true, what will probably happen if it does not come true? If the worry does not come true, how will you handle it? Will you eventually be okay, or something very bad will happen? Just answering and keeping things in perspective itself also helps a lot. Just thinking about what might happen, what might not happen, and just assessing how far, what will happen, what will be the worst outcome. Just writing it down will also be very, very helpful, I guess. So if you're doing all these things and yet you cannot overcome, or you are having that chronic anxiety, maybe visiting counselor or therapist would be very good thing. But again, like desensitizing yourself with worry exposure might also be very helpful. Maybe you practice, give 15 minutes a time to worry, and you worry about little things at that time. And so just desensitizing yourself with worry also helps.
Mhm. Yes, that it's all coming into perspective to me right now, because I did try journaling, and as you said, yes, I did write about the things that were worrying me, and I discovered that I was being conscious about my past, and then I was trying to relate to how it would impact my future. So I was constantly juggling between the two things, and that's how I wasn't living in the moment, and I wasn't really living my life. So journaling brought that into perspective, because I would just see myself ruminating over baseless thoughts. So to me, it didn't seem baseless until I wrote it down. But after I wrote it down, it would just seem very insignificant. But then I had to do it for a while. And by a while, I don't mean weeks or months. It did take years for me to get better with journaling. But yeah. So now when I have certain kind of thoughts, I can extract the lessons from my past experience, and then I can move on swiftly, because I have bagged experience, unfortunately or fortunately, in that department. So apart from journaling, Chandni, the other thing that helped me, which I discovered based on my research, was boxing the worries and then postponing it to later. So if I am studying right now and there's something that's bugging me and affecting my productivity, I would just schedule a time for worrying about it. So I will worry about this thing at 10 p.m. tonight, so it doesn't bug me anymore. So that's something I read, and it didn't come to me naturally, of course. It did take practice, but I really liked that technique. And
Yeah,
yes,
I think that is something.
desensitization is yes.
Yeah, I think that is something that's very interesting as well. Even I do sometimes when I have so many things and going on my head. I need to finish some task at a certain time. Then I will say, like, whatever comes in mind, okay, I'll take care of this after 6 o'clock, and I'll just sit at that time and think, okay, what I was going to think about. So I think, yeah, these techniques are really helps for those. But again, I would like to say one is, when you are dealing with anxiety, and if it's like a chronic anxiety or frequent anxiety that you feel recurrently, then the goal should be to reduce overall frequency. What we have to understand is, it's not like you take one pill and it will just vanish away in a year. It's not something
Yes.
like that. No, it's deeply associated within us. It's something that has been reside like from a long time. So it will take time to go. It will not vanish in one day. So the goal should be is to reduce overall frequency of the anxiety. Maybe every day, if you have a tendency to feel anxiety 5 times or 6 times in a day, maybe if you are trying to work in reducing anxiety, you can reduce overall frequency and gradually the intensity and the duration of anxiety, so that daily functioning is not impaired. So just target you read something and you keep it in perspective today, and you try it everything, and tomorrow you think like, okay, I thought if I do this then anxiety will go away, but why again feeling this way? Because sometimes I hear these things as well. I did everything but now it's not working. So at the time I would like to say everyone that it's not like a one pill that you practice one thing today and tomorrow you are going to be okay, but this is like a continuous practice, just like you mentioned, Pujan, like you gradually make it a habit, right? So if you really want to reduce, come
Yes.
out from anxiety and worry, rather than doing it for 1 day, 2 day, or 1 week, or just a 2 week, uh, if we cultivate it as our habit, then it will help us to deal and better cope with anxiety.
Yeah, repetition is the key in everything. And I I don't know how I come up with ideas, but I had this crazy idea in my head, which made sense because I just um, I just think that it's kind of analogous to the earthquakes we have, and touch wood, I hope it doesn't happen again. But so every time an earthquake happens, there is a big quake firstly, and then afterwards we do get aftershocks, right? After the big quake
Yeah.
happens, things don't get better all of a sudden because we feel aftershocks and they reduce in magnitude over time. So that's how I saw it. Because if I had a panic attack today and if it lasted for a week, it was an outcome of me stressing my nervous system so much so that it couldn't bear the stress anymore. So it was just a physiological reaction to it. And I cannot get over that amount of stress overnight. So I just have to be mindful and let my body de-stress. So I just took the analogy from the earthquake experience and the aftershocks that follow, and it made my life a lot better actually. So I just wanted to put it out there because it might help someone else connect with it.
Yeah, I think it's very, very necessary even to check your own belief system. You know, sometimes what we believe might be the false belief, or we might have some sort of cognitive distortion. And one thing is when people have like that constant worry, or people go through anxiety, they can check themselves whether they are having the catastrophizing belief about something. Catastrophizing is the process of creating the worst possible outcome imaginable, and then whirling the thoughts around in your head way more than necessary. You know, you are
Yeah.
going to go to the going to give the exam, and you are imagining the worst possible outcome in your head, and thinking about what will happen if I fail, what will happen if I get B plus, what will happen if I just A, and then maybe my parents will see me like this, maybe my friends will say this, maybe my teacher will say this, and I will be sitting here, and you're creating, imagining all those worst outcome. So sometimes maybe it's just how you are thinking. So just keeping things in perspective and checking what I am thinking, is it true, is it necessary that it will happen, how many chance of it is happening, or something like that. Is it also helps. So checking your own
Yeah.
cognitive biases that we might have also helps.
Mm-mm. Yeah, it does. And also, I think having a support system who you can lean on when times are hard, I think that helps too. Because I was fortunate enough to have a supportive group of friends who I met after I had anxiety. Most of my friends, because I put everything into perspective, and anxiety happened to me for a reason, of course. So I formed a lot of my friendships after I was diagnosed with it, and they were kind enough to support me, and they didn't ever rubbish things out because, as you said, I did have tendency to avoid social gatherings and events and going to academic institutions because I was so wrapped up in my own head. I just couldn't get out of there. And it took a lot of courage on my part too. And it also took help from my friends to push my limit. And I was just talking about my friend the other day, and he was saying that, okay, so when we talked about it earlier, you used to shy away, you used to feel so anxious that you used to tell me to avoid talking about it. And now you're talking about it so in a such a reckless and carefree manner. I am so proud of how far you've come. So people notice that, you noticed it on your own too, but people notice it that too. So I think it's important to have a group of friends or family or someone in your life who you can lean on for support when times are hard, because sometimes no matter how strong you think you are, you cannot take care of it on your own. And maybe
Yeah,
that is the time when you know that you should either talk to someone in the family or seek professional help. I think that would be the cue.
definitely. I can agree no more. Like support system is a very, very important thing. And when it comes about, when we talks about mental health, then I will definitely say that a very good pair of ears is very necessary.
Mhm.
You will, people need someone with whom they can open up. They need someone who would listen them, not with the intent of replying or responding, but with the intent of understanding from where they are coming from
Yes.
and where they are
Mhm.
saying why they are saying this. Because it's very easy for someone to say, oh, you think too much, don't think too much. You have habit of thinking, overthinking, don't overthink. Things do not work like that.
Mhm.
If someone can just pause their thought and play
Yeah.
their thought, the case would have been completely different. So yeah, support system is very important. And again, it's like if you know anyone, then what we can do is we can be a very good pair of ears for them.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's what I try to do actually, and I suggest my friends and my family, because there are many people in the family who are who come from a different generation and who don't understand these things. So I don't mind engaging in healthy discussions with my family members even, and talk about it and inform them about how it shouldn't be stigmatized and it's normal. And even though sometimes most of my relatives or anyone in the family, they would seem to disagree, at least they would have the idea in their head that it's not something that's fictional but something that happens to a lot of people. So it's also important to, I think, spread awareness from your own level, so that life is easier for someone who would get diagnosed with it later in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, support system is something, and awareness is another thing. As we mentioned earlier as well, that stigma is still there about mental health. People feel skeptic
Mhm.
when it's about talking about their mental health. So more awareness and
Mhm.
more information will help to break all those stigmas, I guess.
Yes, yeah, that's true. So I have another thing in my mind, Chandni. So when I was recovering, and even now, um, although it has gotten better, I had major self-esteem issues. Like I used to be able to function normally uh, prior to my life. Uh, when I had anxiety, but afterwards and during the process, my self-esteem saw major lows, and I am still trying to pick myself up. Although it wouldn't seem inevitable to people who see me, I know that I have been better and I've been more confident and comfortable in my own skin. But I just feel like I've lost some part of myself to it. So, um, can you tell me more about why people have self-esteem issues?
Very, very nice question. I must say, Pujan, it's very nice, and it's not that often talked about self-esteem. Well, what is self-esteem? If we see that, like self-esteem is one of intrinsic qualities that develop slowly over the time. And when one suffer from low self-esteem, I think most of the people not notice it when they even walk into a room. So people who have low self-esteem have certain kind of body language. If you have noticed it, they are little
Mhm.
hesitant and well, self-esteem is how you see yourself, how you value yourself, how much worthy do you think, and it's strongly related on how you view and react to the things that happen in your life. So there might be several reasons, causes of low self-esteem, that some might have low self-esteem because of unhappy childhood where parents were very demanding or were very extremely critical. Some might have low self-esteem because of poor academic performance in a school, ongoing stressful life events, poor treatment from a partner or in a relationships. All these things can contribute to the causes of low self-esteem. So another thing is like it might depends from person to person. I will say, talking about the self-esteem, it's overall how you view yourself, how one assigns how much worth they have in their life.
So how can we improve it, and how can we manage our self-esteem so that we feel better about ourselves, and how do we not let us affect it? How do we not let it affect different domains of our life?
Uh, well, there are different things that we can do when it comes to increasing our self-esteem. But again, it also depends from where that low self-esteem is coming from. What are the source? Is it because of some relationship, or is it because of fear of trying? Some people might have the connotation of perfectionism, like if I should be a good enough, then I should meet this standard. I should always be a A-level student. I should not achieve more than this, because this is I am. Or the term like what I mean to say by perfectionism is, again, it might relate with the body images as well. So if I'm beautiful, then I must be a zero size. If I am teaching, or if I'm preaching something, then I should know everything about it. Or then there is some sort of the concept of perfectionism, and it also creates self-doubts, and which can contribute in low self-esteem. So understanding where that low self-esteem is coming from always helps us to build higher self-esteem. So one thing, if someone is trying to do, maybe one can assess, is it true, is it not? Again, I think, well, I will say like assessing or trying to write it down, where does it comes from, is it true or not, what can I do, is very helpful on these things. Another thing I will say, talk to yourself positively. When people with low self-esteem might say like, I'm not good enough, I cannot do it, maybe these are the statements they say themselves continuously. So talking positively, positive self-talk, and challenge not only talking, having that positive self-talk, but also challenging our negative self-talk helps. Not comparing yourself with others, acknowledging the positive things that we have in our life, appreciating our own self, like special qualities, um, taking the compliments, not feeling embarrassed if someone find you beautiful, or someone says like, oh, you have done a good job or something. You may say like, no, it happened just by the luck or something. You can say like, yeah, thank you so much, I really work hard for it. Just acknowledging, accepting the feedbacks, exercise, eating healthy, keeping things in perspective. Well, I will say these things will really help to build that self-esteem.
I couldn't relate more to what you just said, because I am known for being hard on myself, and people constantly tell me to just not be so uptight and loosen up. So I don't know, I if I still am, or I used to be, but I used to be a perfectionist, and it really took a toll on my mental health again, until one day when I looked into the dictionary definition of perfectionism, and it said striving to be perfect. So it wasn't a destination, it was all about the process. So if I made a mistake today, I would still be learning from it, and then tomorrow would be better, and I would still be striving to get better. So that day, my whole perception about perfectionism changed, and I realized that I didn't have to be perfect today. It was okay to make mistakes. It was okay to not be hard on myself. So that made life a lot easier. And yes, I did try to eliminate the negative self-talk from my head. And I would talk to myself as if I was talking to my best friends, because I wouldn't tell them abhorrent things like, oh my God, you look terrible today, you performed terribly today. That isn't how we talk, right? So I just think that we have to be kind to ourselves. And another thing, what I really liked you mentioning about was accepting the compliments and not telling people or not even talking to yourself as if you gained it out of sheer luck. Because I used to have it for longer than I can remember, and I traced the pattern, and I just recently realized it, and I'm trying to work on it. So imposter syndrome is also something that I've struggled with because I've achieved, like, whenever I achieve something, I just think that, oh, so maybe I did it out of luck, like when I do well in the exam, I have this tendency to wait for another exam to see if it happened by luck or if it happened because I was smart. So that is something wrong. And I don't think that we should do that to ourselves. And I feel bad that did that to myself for years on end. So I really liked how you talked about it, and I think I'm taking a lot of lessons from you about how to manage the tendency to be a perfectionist and imposter syndrome as well. So thank you so much.
Well, what I have experienced so far, and in my counseling career, what I have seen is self-esteem is associated with lots of different things. When you have a low self-esteem, anxiety is very common. When you have a low self-esteem, you're always apprehensive about the situation. What will happen? Am I good enough? Should I say this or not? Will people like me? Will people not like me? And these things are very common. Even when we talk about self-esteem, if you see the people who abuse drug or who are in drug abuse, you can see they have very low self-esteem. As far as I have seen, people like themselves after taking drugs. In my counseling career, I have seen people saying that I take drugs because I like myself after taking drugs. I become more cool. I can approach to people. I can talk with them. But when I do not take drugs, then I cannot talk with people. I do not like myself. I always live in inferiority. But after taking certain drugs, I feel inflated. So, can you see the connection between self-esteem and even the substance abuse or low self-esteem? Even people who are trying to recover from substance abuse or who are taking the treatment, even if you talk with them also, you can see that those people have really low self-esteem. They do not believe in themselves. So where does that self-esteem comes from? Is
Yes.
our how we what we believe ourselves to be. If I believe that I'm good enough, then yes, I am good enough. If I believe I'm not good enough, yes, you're right, I'm not good enough. So basically, self-esteem is closely related with your self-belief, how you perceive your own self, how you perceive your ability, how you think, how you assign value to yourself. So it is very, very important. Low self-esteem is also related with like depression, anxiety, lots of other things. Even if you, I think, like if you see today's relationship, when you are in a relationship with a person who has really low self-esteem, you can see like possessive nature is very common, because when one do not have belief on oneself, and when one find like maybe she or he is more handsome or prettier than me, so is this the reason that my partner is talking with them or something like that? So low self-esteem can invite lots of different distraction, I would say lots of different problems in our life.
Basically, correct me if I'm wrong. So, what I understood is that behind every thought that we have, there is a cognition between our thought and then the way we behave as a reaction to those chain of thoughts, right?
Yeah. So it might be vice versa as well. Just let me ask you one question. If you
Okay,
cannot
sure.
feel happy, you cannot feel happy
Hmm.
by thinking something bad,
Yes,
or
that's true.
you cannot think something you cannot think about something that makes you happy and feel sad at the same time, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Because more like when you are happy, mostly you are thinking about happy moment. When you are excited, mostly you are thinking about happy moments, right? And when you are sad, you are also
Hmm.
thinking about something. That feeling and thoughts are correlated. Your feelings can bring negative. If you're feeling low down, maybe you will start thinking on that train of thought. You can go in that train of thought. If you are thinking about something bad, then eventually you might have that feelings also. So thoughts and feelings are
Hmm.
interplay, I would say. So if you can change one, then you can change other. Sometimes when you feel very sad, you might want to think about something that makes you happy and that can alter your sadness. So it's like the interplay, I would say.
Okay. So how do we channelize our thoughts in a way that it does not adversely impact our state of mind and behavior?
Well, first thing I will say is self-awareness is very, very important. Just monitoring like what you are continuously saying to yourself. Is your self-talk positive? Is your talk serving you or not serving you? Is your thought acting against you or it's serving for you? It's very important to identify your self-talk. And just like I mentioned, when I say like self-talk is very important and you have to have positive self-talk, lots of people think it's a natural thing. We heard it like we have to think in a correct manner from a very childhood. It might sound very cliche, but if we dig a little deeper and try to understand it, like why it is important, maybe we can feel that why it is very much valued. Like whatever you talk, just like imagine if I think like I'm not a good dancer. I'm not a good dancer. I'm not a good dancer. That is something that I said to myself in my head. I'm not a good dancer. I'm not a good dancer. I'm not a good dancer. Then eventually, what I will tell myself, and maybe I tell I'm not a good dancer because in my past experience, I might have felt once or twice, or I might not have catch some dancing steps. So I have got that feelings that I'm not a good dancer. I tell today, tomorrow, I'm not a good dancer. Eventually, what I tell myself, I will start believing that. Okay. So what I believe is I'm not a good dancer now. Now it becomes my reality that I'm not a good dancer. So eventually, I will behave like, because I believe I'm not a good dancer, my behavior will also be like that I'm not a good dancer. And it becomes a part of my personality. And eventually, it will be my identity because I believe something, right? It might be true or not. Your belief might be true or it might not be true, but it's something that's really associated with our self-talk. And it work in two ways. If I can believe I'm not a good dancer, I can also believe that I am a good dancer. I'm a good dancer. Then I will, if I say pretty enough time, if I monitor my self-talk and I convince myself that if I practice, I'll be a good dancer. Practice will make me a good dancer. Practice will make me a good dancer. Maybe eventually I will believe that, and my behavior will also be aligned with my belief system, because people do not want to stay in that cognitive dissonance. So my belief and my behavior will also align with that belief, and eventually it will become my identity that yeah, practice makes me a good make me a good dancer. So if you see the correlation between our small self-talk and our identity, we can see that channel. So again, I'll say like
Hmm.
self-talk, and I think in the beginning you mentioned about self-affirmations. Affirmations are very, very necessary. myself, like today I say I want to be the best, or today you say like I can't do everything. Does that really make you do everything? Yeah, people might have might feel these sort of the things, but again I would say that the things you say to yourself is one and only most important thing. It does not matter what others say to you, but what goes inside your head, how you are interpreting and assigning meanings plays a vital role in your self-growth, or whether it's about changing your self-esteem or trying to inflate your self-esteem.
Yeah,
So
that's true. Yes, please go on.
yeah. So it's something like our self-talk, what we believe, how we form our identity is a very important process. And sometimes just tweaking small things like affirmation, trying to surround ourselves with the positive people, all these things helps us.
Yeah. So talking about affirmations, I did read somewhere that the words I am have an immense gravity to them, and you should not attach negative wordings behind the words I am, because thoughts become things and perception is a reality. So it makes a lot of sense right now, because the more we think about the negative I ams, the more that thought becomes ingrained in our mindset, and we tend to behave in a certain way based on those thoughts. And yeah, we become what we think. And also about surrounding yourself with positive people. I just came across this quote that you are the average of 5 people that you spend your time with. So choose your company wisely, or something along those lines. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've also discovered that the more, yeah, yes, please.
Yeah, definitely, Pujan. I will say that people who are struggling through low self-esteem, first accept yourself. Accept yourself right now, who you are. Accept yourself. Embrace yourself. Being human is super, right? We can do lots of things. We can alter our mood. We can alter our personality. Yeah, it needs some work, but we can. It's not like impossible thing. Decide the type of person you want to be, what kind of person you want to be. Decide that, accept yourself and decide that. Okay, we can always accept ourselves currently and strive for someone who we want to be, maybe the best version of ourselves. Here I'm not referring to someone like a celebrity person or something. If someone want to have, that's totally fine. But again, if you're striving for to be your best version, then first you need to acknowledge your present version. You cannot neglect your present version and you strive. We need to embrace ourselves and prove it to yourself with small wins that you can make change. Don't keep that unrealistic. Don't set that unrealistic goals. Just maybe the small goals, and we do not need to prove it to others. Even just proving to yourself is enough when you are trying to build that self-esteem. Maybe today I will go out and say hi to 2 people. If you are afraid of talking, if you are apprehensive about talking with the strangers, maybe today I will go out and say hi to 2 people. Okay, that's a small thing. Maybe you can, or maybe a one person, or maybe today I will give a call to someone if you're really apprehensive about talking with someone or something. Like a small wins can help you build. So setting the realistic goal is also something, and that might help, that will help.
So I just remembered something really funny when we were talking about setting realistic and flexible goals. So I came across this post somewhere on Reddit or Instagram, I don't remember, but there was this meme that said, I am currently slacking and I sleep for about 10 hours a day and binge watch shows, but I'm making plans for tomorrow of sleeping 4 hours and then studying for 10 hours and becoming the best version of myself, like as if I'm magically going to wake up as a different person tomorrow. So we tend to do that. We just think that instead of taking it slow and working on ourselves over time, we just are hard on ourselves. And by we, I'm also included there. I am known to having such kind of tendencies. And I am embarrassed, but yeah, but I'm trying to work on it, and I'm sure a lot of people are on the same boat as I am. But yeah, it's okay to take time to work on ourselves. And it reminds me of this quote by Martin Luther King Jr., who says that if you can't run, then walk. Just like take things slow, I just don't remember
Yeah,
the quote exactly, but that was the gist of it, about taking things slow. Just make sure that you are moving forward, and that's what
yeah,
is the essence. And also, like you mentioned, it's not important and it's unrealistic to try to get a definitive answer to everything today. Like I was having these thoughts, and I was challenging my belief about something, and I was trying to come up with an answer, a definitive answer in a day. And then I talked to someone, and they said that it's okay. So you've grown up your entire life until now believing on it. So you reach this point of challenging your belief in these after these many years. So you just don't have to transition into something else right over. You can take time with it, and then you can have your answers over time. You don't need to find an answer today. And having that in my mind brought a lot of things into perspective. So I think a lot of people have that tendency, and we tend to struggle with trying to find an answer today and in the moment, instead of taking it slow and taking time with it. What do you think about it?
yeah, definitely, definitely. Because we might have that, all of us have that idea, about like, I want to bring this change and that change. We set our plan, we make our plan. And if that plan goes little off track, it demotivates us. And eventually
Yeah.
it happens once, it happened twice, it happened thrice, then again it will make you have that self-doubt on your head, like, oh, last time also I thought I will lose this much, but then I end up eating chocolate cake. Last time I also thought this thing, that I will not eat junk for entire year or 6 months or 3 months, then I end up in this. So maybe setting up the realistic goal that you can achieve and rewarding yourself is very important, so you are motivated to complete it, because you can also reward yourself well once you complete those tasks. Well, I will say, like, rewarding is also very, very important when it comes to changing behavior, because you're trying to change that pattern you have developed from last 20 years, 25 years, 16 years. It might be like 50 years. And if you're trying to do that, it's not that easy. It takes effort, it takes planning. And lots of time people relapse or fall in their previous habits. It's just how they have been performing for so long time. And when we try to associate certain behavior with reward, it helps us to carry on to take on move to take that new habits forward as days comes. And becoming the best version of yourself requires you to continuously edit your beliefs, to upgrade and expand your identity, I will say. So maybe some belief that I had before a couple of years might not serve me right now. So our brain need to be like a plastic, receptive enough and open enough for the ideas. So I will say, like, the more you repeat a behavior, the more you reinforce the identity associated with that behavior. So it's very important. So to bring that change, no matter it's the change in your behavior, or you want to have that healthy habits or anything, we must have flexibility in our belief system. We must be receptive or open towards new ideas.
You mentioned about identity. So even like when we try to inculcate good habits, we are hard on ourselves if we have this tendency to repeat our old habits. And I used to have that tendency too. But I didn't realize, like you said, I read somewhere that since you've been in practice of practicing the old habit for years on end, it's okay if you have the thought of having the tendency to go back to the old habit, but you just have to be mindful that that is your past identity that's trying to drag you back, and you have to be mindful to not let it have that effect on you and focus on the goals that you've set for yourself. And I think that's the way towards reinforcing your new identity. Does that make sense, Chandni?
Yeah, I will say, while talking about behavioral change or behavioral modification, I think like we can go through three process. Like one might be the goal oriented, like I want to fit myself for my brother's wedding. I want to have, I want to fit into this cloth. It can be like goal oriented. Some people might try by the process changing certain habits. They will try to change certain aspect from their personality. But again, what I have seen so far in my experience is those changes happen just for a temporary time, you know. It's not the permanent change. As far as my own experience I'm sharing, like in terms of drugs also, if you see people, they they say like, okay, I want to be clean at least for three months. Okay, I want to be clean after at least for 6 months. In rehab I'm clean. There is a certain goal, right? But once you achieve that goal, then what? You have tendency to fall back once you
Yes.
achieve that. And the second thing is like you want to adjust some, or you want to cultivate some new behaviors in your system. So again, maybe if you want to exercise, then you will start going to the gym. Today you will go, tomorrow you will, and or if you are trying to cut off in the diet, also you was like okay, I'm trying to eat healthy, I'm trying to eat healthy. Again, it's something like you want to make bring change in your behavior. But here comes the identity. If you want to have that permanent change, then you have to take the new identity, you know. So maybe you won't say like I want to fit into this dress or something, or you walk up and go to the gym, and I used to like I'm trying to exercise every day. I am someone who exercise, you know, identity works. So rather than making it a
Wow.
part as identity, the goal is like not to wake up every morning and go to the gym, but the goal is to become a gym freak if you really want that to happen. So goal is not to,
Yes.
as I heard some like goal is not to read a books. It's to like become a reader, right? If you want to be a very avid reader, then it's not like I will read these three books and then I will be something. It's not something like that. The goal is to be a reader. So you have to take that identity, you know. So the more you repeat those things, like how you develop that identity is again a very interesting phenomena. You know, in the drug addiction also you can see like today someone take a drug, tomorrow she takes, and again 3-4 times they take, and gradually they will start believing like after 4 or 5 times that I like drug or I enjoy taking drug or something like that. So identity form with the repetition. When you repeat something like good enough time, then that's how our identity forms. So change, if you want to cultivate new habits, or if we want to um, unlearn some previous habits, I think we can do it somehow associate with our identity and do it so that we can have that permanent change. But again, I would say like even the goal oriented change also change are also good enough.
So the key is, from what I understood, is you need to have a goal in mind, but then you have to have flexibility in your plans, and you have to be mindful and focus on the process towards reaching that goal, and not be so fixated on the destination, because it would only make your life difficult. Is that it?
Yeah, yeah, I will say that. I'll agree. Yeah.
Okay.
So we can strive ourselves, but what I see is it's very easy to say that we need to change our habits, right? It's very easy to say that I want to be a
Mhm.
very good leader. I want to be like this. I want to be. It's very easy, but when it comes
Mhm.
to like in reality, when we have to make that changes, then it's another
Mhm.
thing. It's very difficult thing. It's not that easy thing. So for that change, we need to be very mindful whether I'm trying to make adjust my behavior for this purpose, for what purpose, or if I really want to have this, maybe we can do that by identity, by our own identity. You know, identity is something that people loved about themselves, and they can make it as a part of their own identity, so that the change comes and change is there as a permanent.
Mm-mm. Yeah, so we have to do it in a certain way that it lasts for a long time. For example, I could relate to the not eating a cake thing that you mentioned about it, and I'm sure that a lot of us can find a ground of relatability in it. So when you're trying to shed a few pounds, or when you're trying to fit into a dress for someone's wedding, your own or someone else's, you try to bring try to switch to fad diets, and you are so hard on yourself, you stop eating, starve yourself, but it does not last for, based on my own experience, it has never lasted for more than a week. I would be frail, and then I would be starving, and I would look shabby and then I will go back to eat my old eating habits from week 2. So it has never helped, and I don't know if it has helped anyone, but yeah, I think we have to make flexible plans, and we should not be hard on ourselves, just be consistent with it to see the results. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Different. I think there is no one way out that we can try this and this will work for everyone, because we all are different. But these are the things that has been practiced, and maybe it might be worked. It might be helpful, and it might work. But there is no like one way rule that okay, you try this and it will of course help you. You know, we all are different, and we go through
Yeah.
different life events. We believe different things.
So now, Chandni, moving on to your company, PAV. You are the co-founder of PAV, right?
Yeah.
So please tell us more about PAV and what you're involved with and what the company does, please.
Okay, so talking about the web, in my career of counseling, just like whatever the topics we covered before, like low self-esteem, no matter it's about low self-esteem, it's about anxiety, worry, while counseling all the adults, while counseling the people, somehow I felt deep inside that these things comes just because we have not learned how to cope. We do not no one has, as far as I am talking about myself, during my school and college days, no one taught me how to cope, how to be resilient, how to channelize my feelings. Is it okay to cry or not? How to channelize my anger? You know, in my home also, I used to say, like, my mom used to say, like, you should not get angry. It's not good to be angry. But I never learned in my home as well, like, why or how can I channelize it in a proper way. Because if we even look at the anger is like a primary emotions there. It is just there within us, right? So in my counseling career also, I saw lots of people coming to the counseling sessions again and again, because somehow they do not have belief in themselves, or they do not know how to cope and how to deal with the different situations. So that make me realize that in Nepal we have a great need of socio-emotional learning. If we can teach children from very early span of their life about how to express their emotion in a right way, how to communicate, how to empathize with people, these small things, how to take better decisions, how to say no when you do not want to do things, how to allow yourself to make mistakes, and making mistakes are okay. I think these are few things that triggers me. So founding VAV basically stems from this concept that there is a need for social emotional learning. We need to talk, we need to share what we have learned so that we can have that, empowered youth. So it was the motto for me to found the vow. I'll say that.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. So, excuse my ignorance, please, but what exactly is emotional intelligence? Could you please elaborate on it?
Okay, so emotional intelligence is like the concept of the Daniel Coleman, I guess. So talking about like emotional intelligence, or talking about what we do as a VAV, is we specifically focus on 5 domains, and that is self-awareness, like identifying your own emotions. Sometimes you feel irritated and you do not know why you feel that way. Sometimes you just feel sad and you do not know why we feel. So just identifying the emotions, accepting the emotion, recognizing one's own strength, need, and developing a growth mindset is something. Second is we work under the self-management, like I talk about anger, no lots of time impulses, like managing emotions, controlling impulses, and setting right goals. This falls under the self-management. Likewise, third domain will be the social awareness, like seeing things from others people's perspective. Communication, showing empathy, appreciating the diversity. This falls under social awareness. Another will be the relationship skills, like communication, cooperation, how to work as a team, conflict resolution. This will fall under relationship skills. And lastly, the responsible decision making is include thinking about the consequence of personal behavior. What are my responsibility in children, or even in the adults? You can see that when it comes to taking responsibility, people have tendency to assign it to the outward external things, and they do not take the responsibility of themselves. And when it comes about making choices or something about right, people always come in front and say like, oh, this is my right, I have to do this, so these are the 5 domains: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision making. These are the 5 domains of socio-emotional intelligence, or the socio-emotional well-being that we work under.
Why do you think these domains are applicable and important in the context of our country and society?
Well, I will say that not only in the Nepal, I think wherever there are the people, wherever people in any country, these things are very, very important. And specifically in the country like Nepal, where modernization is happening rapidly. It's a time where like technology has rule over. With the advancement of science and technology, everyone has that mobile in their hand. And in this time, I think the self-awareness, self-management, relationship skills, all these are very, very necessary to cope up with this contemporary lifestyle, even because wherever the rate of suicide, if you see, and the rate of like substance abuse, if you see, and the conflict in between families, I have seen so far, somehow it comes from when people cannot identify their own emotions, when people cannot manage their own expectations, like we say, like low self-esteem, when they cannot manage their own emotions, anything. So I will say that this is very important in context of Nepal, because in our traditional schooling or college, we never has a curriculum of self. We never have a curriculum of socio-emotional learning. Everyone teaches everyone teaches that study, education is important, we need to study, but no one teaches us how to study. I always think like when we teach children or adult or anyone how to think, then we should not teach them how to like you need to study or something. No, we have to, if we can teach like how to be self-aware, how to manage ourselves. I do not know, like math, science, all these things are very crucial, very important. But again, these skills are something that you or any one of us need in every step of our life, no matter it's about greeting and going to some party, no matter it's about working in the corporate sectors. no matter it's about empathizing with others or dealing with your own emotions. It prepared you to deal in any life situations, I guess. So it's very important, I guess, because of that.
Yes, yeah, I can relate to what you said. Um, in schools and other educational institutions, we are often taught about technicalities, technical knowledge about books, and they are very subjective. But I don't remember learning about how to get better at social skills, about how to interact with people, because we do get social anxiety, right? When we were locked inside our houses because of the pandemic for months on end, we forgot how to interact with people, and it became a struggle somehow to get back to the old ways and start talking to people in the old ways. But had we been equipped with it earlier about how to manage our social skills and how to interact with people, then maybe life would have been easier. But there's a joke that all the educational institutions teach us is that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell and we don't know how to use it. So I just remembered that. But yeah, it's so now that you said, I think that yes, it's social emotional intelligence and social emotional learning are crucial for our existence. And if we get better at it, then life would be better for us in any setup, whether it be at school or whether it be us being in the corporate sector. So we tend to undermine it, but yeah, it's very important. So I think that I am not equipped socially, emotionally as well. So how do you think people who do not think that they have social emotional intelligence to an appropriate level can improve their skills?
Well, I'll say that again, if there is a workshop or something like that is happening, make sure that you participate, because these things may not come naturally to us, and we have already learned how to cope with our emotions. When we talk about the adults, like we have already know that it's okay to get angry if something goes wrong, right? So when we have developed certain tendency, I think it's very necessary to unlearn it and to cultivate new things, and mostly like self-awareness. Like if I'm angry, why I'm feeling angry, or sometimes we just feel sad, or sometimes we just feel envious or jealousy, and just accepting the feelings. So trying to practice self-awareness is the first key, I will say, for the rest of things like responsible decision-making, the skills, social awareness or management. I think I will emphasize like self-awareness is a key first. But again, how to be self-aware, and this is another thing. So I'll say like maybe trying to incultivate new behaviors. If there are any workshops or any training is happening related with like social emotional learning or the emotional intelligence or something like that, you can always participate to expedite or accelerate your own knowledge. And these things are something that you cannot, I feel like you read it, and if you do not practice it, it won't work. So it's not like again, it's not only the information, it's about your practice as well. Like, are you practicing? Are you, how long you've been practicing? It depends on all those things as well. So, yeah.
And also to add to it, I think it also depends on the setup that you're currently in. Because if you're constantly in an environment where your patience is tested, for example, you live with people who have contradictory beliefs from you, then it's hard to dissociate yourself from your past identity. And regardless of whatever socio emotional intelligence and learning that you've acquired from attending the workshops or from reading, when your beliefs are constantly challenged and your behavior is constantly challenged because of being subjected to such environment, it's difficult to work on yourself. So we also have to be mindful of the environment that we are in. Is that correct?
Um, yeah, yeah, definitely. So I think these are the lifelong skills, you just learn for a day, learn for a year, and it will, I think this need like continuous repetition, editing, new things, learning, and trying to exercise it in practical way. All these things are the lifelong things, and it won't happen in a day. I'll say, like, for me, I'm also still practicing, trying to exercise, trying to be more aware of what I am doing, and self-management. It also depends on, at some point in your life you might become a very self-aware, and if the situation turns against you, then at that time it might be very difficult to manage your own emotions. And I think that's the time when the role of therapist, counselor, or mental health professionals comes in between. So it will help us
Okay.
to make
Yeah.
aware and build that good relationship, even in the family itself. Because these days, if you see in family, everyone has the mobile in their hands, and people did not connect that much. So again,
Uh,
relationship skills are something that all these things will help. These are the life skills, I will say.
yeah. So I'm a meme fanatic. So whenever you say something, I can relate it to a meme. So like you said, whenever the internet goes off, because we are all connected to our phones and we have a hard time escaping from our gadgets. So whenever there's no power or whenever the internet goes off and we go outside, there is this meme that, oh, I met the people I live with today. They seem to be lovely people. So we forget to connect with people because we are wrapped up inside our own world thanks to the internet. It has its pros and cons, but yeah, we should try to disintegrate ourselves from the virtual world for once, and then look around and try to build connections around us. What do you think about it?
Definitely, it's everything. Just like everything, you can make internet as a curse or a boon. It's totally up to us, I believe. But again, all these things, whatever we do, whatever we say, even though if we are binge watching, also, I think self-awareness is key for everything, and it helps us to better manage. And people with strong social emotional skills are better able to cope with everyday challenges, and benefit academically, professionally, and socially, from effective problem solving to self-discipline, from impulse control to emotion management, and more. Like social emotional learning provides a foundation for positive long-term effect on children, adults, communities, or even for a corporate house also. If they have the strong culture of social emotional learning, I think they can better collaborate and better coordinate with each others.
I hope it becomes a culture in every corporate setup, and it would make life a lot easier for everyone. So I was inquisitive about something, Johnny, and I did ask you about it the other day when we were chatting informally. So, firstly, I am so thankful towards you for what you do, because it's one thing bantering about mental health and spreading awareness, but it's completely different thing choosing it as a profession, especially in the context of a country where it has been stigmatized for years on end. So, thank you so much for uptaking psychotherapy as a profession. And I would want to thank you on behalf of all the people that you might have counseled and your prospective patients for doing what you do and making lives easier and more convenient for people. So you are a human, and if, talking about my experience and from the experience of the people that I've interacted with, if I constantly talk to someone who is anxious or who is depressed, I feel drained and I start feeling exhausted after a while, although I would want to lend my support. So, how is it that you keep your personal life and professional life different, and how do you find a balance so as to not let yourself feel overwhelmed with the information that you receive?
Okay, I will try to give a very direct answer to this question, and that is, whenever I have a client who's having like some sort of challenges, who's facing some sort of the challenge, rather than feeling it myself, yeah, empathy is very necessary. But again, I will say, like, I'll try to observe it as an observer, feeling it, but again, making it very objective and trying to observe it is very important because we cannot be in a problem with themselves and try to find the solution. So maybe what I try is, I always try to look those problems from their view, and I try to keep my personal feelings and things very intact. And when I'm with them, I'm completely with them. But when I'm not in a session, I have that tendency to cut that cord right there, so that I do not get carried away with their thoughts or their emotions. Because if I get carried away, then I think I cannot make them help themselves. So yeah, this is one thing that I try to see things, even for my own problems in my own life also. I try to observe it, not by being in like my own shoes, just taking myself out of the situation and placing someone else in my situation, is trying to observe like what she is doing, what she should how can I guide her, or something like that. So yeah, I'll say that this cutting of the cord, not cutting of the cord, that does not mean like in a different way, but here I'm saying like not mixing up your own values, or not taking it like, why, how to help that client, I have to, oh my god, this is a thing, or not overwhelming. Because I think while talking with someone, while assessing that, if you have got that enough skills to do so, then it will gradually process. So being objective and trying to maintain that professionalism itself gives me uh, that sort of the skill, not to remain intact, I'll say.
Mm-mm. Okay, so um, did cutting off the cord, as you put it, come with practice, or do you start by being very organized about how you would segregate your personal life and professional life and not let either one affect the other?
um, well, I will say it comes with practice. For me, definitely it comes with practice, because I remember in the early days when I used to do counseling, I used to get overwhelmed when, if some people just cry, or some people, I used it. It would be difficult for me to control my own emotion. Even though I would not show it, but somehow I would feel that intense emotional upsurge within me. But later on, with practice, and by practice, I will say that now it's easier for me to empathize and not being carried away in their own emotions. So this is how I think I'm balancing this, like my personal life and the professional life. Because when I'm with the client and dealing with things, I'm just right there, and when I'm out, I'm just out. I do not have that residual care, like, oh my God, why this happened, or what this happened. Because when I'm planning with them for the next session or something, I'm entirely 100% right there. And when I'm out, then yes, when the session is over, then it's over. And then when he or she visit again, then again, it will be the same. So it's just like
Okay,
that.
so okay, so I hope that we all can take lessons from you, because we all, to a certain extent, struggle to uh, maintain a balance between our personal and professional life as well. Like, not let the things that happen at work or at home affect the other parts of our lives. So it's an essential skill set to have, is what I
Yeah,
believe.
again, I will say
So,
one
so
thing
tell
on
me,
this. Yeah, one thing on this is like,
let's go on.
whatever you are doing, I always feel that if you're passionate about it, and if you want to do it, and you're very passionate, your 100% involvement is needed. It's no, and in the profession like counseling or therapist, it's demanded. You cannot be in your home 50% of time and 50% of time with the client at the same time. It won't work like that. 100% of you need to be there. But again, involving 100%, that does not mean attaching yourself entirely. You can involve 100% with your client when you are having a session, or even in the corporate sector as well. When you are in home, you are home. When you are in office, you are in office. It's just like that. So you can involve 100% of your time in that time, and once that session is over, then you can just detach with yourself, and it comes with practice. I'll say, because people find it like, once you involve 100%, how can you detach yourself? Then I'll say, like, yeah, when you are in a session, you give your 100% involvement, and when you come back to your home, in your home, you give your 100% involvement. So wherever you are, it's just like practice, like giving your 100% attention, being aware of where you are. So it naturally shifts, for me. But
Yeah.
sometimes
So
it might
if
be all over the place, but mostly.
so, we talked about a lot of things today, and I have a feeling that even I and a lot of people who will listen to this podcast today might have a lot of questions. And if they would want to book a session with you and attend a counseling session with you, how can they do that? Could you please talk about it?
Yeah. So right now we do provide virtual sessions as well. You can reach out to us by the Instagram page or the Facebook page of VAV, Developing Social Emotional Wellbeing. We do work with educators. We do work with corporate houses. We do work with students. So sometimes we do provide the casual sessions for workshops as well. So yeah, you can contact us through Facebook or Instagram. You can send us a direct message, and we can take it forward.
Okay, so I hope many people who feel the need to have their queries answered will uh, reach out. That's the purpose, and that's the hope from today's session. So, Chandni, you are always a delight to talk to, I must say. I have had wonderful conversations with you ever since I got to know you. Was it last month, or has it been longer than that?
I think it was last month, I guess. It was really nice,
Okay.
Pujan, that
So,
you bring these things forward. And I would like to thank you for speaking up in these topics. And thank you for invitation. Thank you.